Hello everyone, this is a lecture on the mollusks based on chapter 16 of the textbook. It is going to be a very brief lecture. Let's start here. All right, let's start with our familiar tree of life. Okay, we've seen this before, right? All animals go through this blastula stage. We've already explored this branch of the phylogenetic tree of animals, the sponges. Most animals go through this gastrula stage, and a few of those animals are diploblasts, meaning they have two germ layers, and we explored one of these branches, the cnidarians. Then we came here onto the rest of the tree of metazoa or kingdom Animalia, where animals are bilateral and they are their bodies are developed from three primary germ layers, so they are triploblasts. And we climbed this branch into this group of animals called the protostomes. This is a monophyletic group of animals that develop mouth first in the gastrula stage. Last time we came here and we explored this branch, phylum Platyhelminthes. So today we are down climbing, but staying in the protostome branch, and then we're going to climb up here, the Mollusca branch, phylum Mollusca. We've seen this before also. Again, this is kind of a similar way of saying what I just said, right? All animals start as zygotes, fertilized eggs, go through some form of cleavage to become a blastula. And phylum Porifera here develops right out of the blastula. They don't develop any additional germ layers. The diploblastic animals, like cnidarians, develop right out of the gastrula with no mesoderm. But most other animals, or all other animals, develop beyond the gastrula. They form some mesoderm, and so that mesoderm is the third germ layer, which makes those animals triploblastic. We've been talking about these animals that form mouth first, where the blastopore, that is the beginning of the invagination of the blastula as the gastrula forms, that initial hole becomes the mouth. We talked about these cnidarians being acoelomates, meaning that their body cavity is completely filled up by mesoderm. And now we're going to discuss this group of animals, the molluscs, which are coelomates, meaning they have a true coelom that is completely lined by mesoderm. Next time we're going to talk about annelids. Notice that these two, both of these phyla, the mollusks and the annelids, are lophotrochozoans, meaning that they are different phyla, but they are they have a similar larval stage, which unites them into what was here as this really large superphylum Lophotrochozoa. All right, phylum Mollusca. This is a very large and astonishingly diverse phylum with more than 90,000 extant species and many, many more extinct species. Now, they are not just diverse in that they have many species, but they are diverse also in where they live. They live in tropical seas to polar seas. They live all the way from deep in the ocean to the tops of the snow-capped Himalayan peaks. They occupy ponds and lakes and streams and mudflats and the rocky intertidals. Also, mollusks represent a variety of lifestyles. Some of them are sessile bottom dwellers, like clams, and some of them are swift pelagic swimmers, like squids. Some of them are herbivores, like snails. Some of them are carnivores, like octopuses. Some of them are parasites and filter feeders. The clams that we dissected are filter feeders. Also, mollusks display a variety of forms. Some of them have no shell, like the cephalopods, octopuses and squids. Some of them have one shell, like the gastropods, the snails. Some of them have two shells, like the bivalves, the clam. And some of them have 8 shells, like the chitons in class Polyplacophora. Some mollusks have pronounced cephalization, so a very clearly defined head with complex eyes, like in the cephalopods. And some mollusks are headless and laterally flattened, like the clam that we dissected. So the phylum Mollusca is not just diverse in that it has many, many species. It's diverse in the areas where it lives, in the ways that they live, and in their shape. And you would think that animals so different, for example, as an octopus and a clam, one that has a pronounced head with complex eyes and the other one that is headless, why would they even be considered to be part of the same phylum? After all, they have such a different body plan. Well, let's look at this figure that shows you what are some of the homologies that are shared across members of this phylum. So for example, the mantle, that's something that we saw in lab when we were dissecting the clam. All of these animals have a mantle, and in most of them, that mantle secretes that calcareous shell. Mollusks also have a muscular foot. They have a chambered heart with an atrium and a ventricle. And they have this uniquely molluscan feature called a radula. Now, there are more groups than we've actually discussed in lab or that I care to discuss now, right? In lab, we discussed the Polyplacophora, Gastropoda, Bivalvia, and Cephalopoda. There are more groups, and you don't need to worry about all of these features of each group. What I want you to focus on is these basal features that were likely present in the common ancestor to all mollusks. Notice that some of these features, however, were lost throughout the diversification of mollusks. For example, here we have a radula, but in Bivalvia, we lost the radula. In fact, we lost the whole head. But they still have a mantle and a foot and a shell. So these are the features that unite the phylum Mollusca, as diverse as it is. So I just want you to think about these questions. If we were meeting in a regular lecture, these are some of the questions that we would be discussing. How do bivalves benefit humans? How do bivalves negatively affect humans? And how do humans negatively affect bivalves? Think about those. And to get you thinking about some of these questions, I have 2 brief videos that I want to show you. The first video is about zebra mussels, and so this is an example of how bivalves can negatively affect humans. I'll disappear while the video plays.
There's something therapeutic about the sounds of water splashing against the shore. But all is not well beneath these tranquil waves. Invasive zebra and quagga mussels are infecting many of our lakes in ways never before experienced or even imagined. Thousands of these invaders drop to the floor each time commercial fisherman Jeff Weborg releases his gill nets into Lake Michigan.
It's hard to imagine, but our scientist at NOAA who studies life on the bottom has estimated that there are over 4 quadrillion mussels on the bottom of the lake.
These destructive mussels blanket the floor of big and small lakes alike. They have invaded 20 states, lurking in hundreds of inland lakes and 6 major rivers. And they stick themselves to everything.
So if you take a look at a pipe that mussels have entered, now you've got a problem.
Utility pipes and machinery often get clogged with massive amounts of sticky mussels, and it's costing us millions.
Right now it's probably between 15 and 20 million a year to control them at the pipes.
But that's only part of the problem.
They can change the ecosystem in ways you don't want the ecosystem changed.
Hungry zebra and quagga mussels are literally sucking in plankton, a critical part of the food chain and necessary for the survival of game fish. And the mussels have a voracious appetite.
A zebra mussel the size of my thumb can filter a liter or roughly a quart of water a day.
The only way these invasives can get into a lake is when a recreational boater or angler inadvertently puts them there. When traveling from one body of water to another, they either forget or don't know how to rid their boats of microscopic larvae.
Those larvae are virtually invisible to the naked eye. There's about 100 zebra mussel larvae in this vial.
The only prevention method is to clean, drain, and dry your boat every time you take it out of the water.
Make sure that you don't move water of any kind from one body of water to another. That means the bait buckets and the live wells and anything else that might be contained in your vessel.
It's the only way to stop these invasive aquatic hitchhikers, known as the silent invaders.
All right, the silent invaders. So that was obviously a video about how bivalves may harm humans, human economy or human infrastructure. The next video I wanted to show you is some of the opposites.
They have very colorful names. This is called a pistol grip because it fits in your hand like a pistol.
Freshwater mussels, with names like fat muckets, bank climbers, and heel splitters, are critical to river ecosystems, but many are in trouble.
And probably about 70% of the species are threatened in some way.
Zoologist Karen Vaughn studies mussels' role in their environment. These invertebrates need plentiful water to thrive and healthy fish to reproduce.
So freshwater mussels, they can't move very far, right? So the way they get around is by sticking their larvae on a fish, and the fish takes it to a new habitat. The major problem for freshwater mussels now is habitat fragmentation and channelization by dams.
Years ago, mussels were at risk because their shells made beautiful buttons. Now it's all about the human need for water. Vaughn does her field work in southeastern Oklahoma, a region hard hit by drought in 2011.
This one river that we've been working in for over 20 years, we probably lost a third of the mussels in that river.
If you can believe it, mussels live 30 to 50 years, and they're hard workers during that time, cleaning the water.
So they're filtering water and taking impurities out of it. The direction that we're trying to go next in our research is to put monetary values on these services that mussels are providing and hopefully show that, you know, if you leave the mussels in the river, then it will save you this much money in water treatment.
At the Aquatic Research Facility at the University of Oklahoma, she's found that in mussel beds, diversity counts. The more species, the healthier.
So we're asking, do bank climbers and muckets, when they're together, do something different than muckets when they're just by themselves? They're definitely in better condition when they're in more diverse beds.
Mussel shells also shelter and nurture insect larvae and other tiny creatures. Another reason, Vaughn says, to help these mussels stay strong. For Science Nation, I'm Miles O'Brien.
You get it? To help these mussels stay strong. All right, so I hope you got some ideas from those two videos about how bivalves, some bivalves like zebra mussels, can negatively affect humans, but some other bivalves like native freshwater mussels can help humans filter their water. All right, this is a question that you should be able to answer based on this lecture and your readings of the chapter. For example, describe two features, morphological or developmental, that would most likely be found in the earliest ancestral mollusks. Okay, we talked about that earlier in this lecture with the cladogram of all the mollusks and some of the basal features that unite the group. All right, that's pretty much it. Here's what I want you to read in chapter 16, just that intro of the chapter, and then this brief section of the also introducing the phylum. Then there is this section that describes these two structures, the head, foot, and visceral mass. I think there's more in there, but I just want you to focus on these two, the head, foot, and visceral mass. And out of all the classes of mollusks, the one that I want you to focus on the most is class Bivalvia. After all, that is the one that we focus on in lab as well. And you're welcome to read the whole section on Bivalvia, of course. It's a little bit lengthy, but what I really want you to focus on is these two brief boxes, the box about conservation issues. So some bivalves are in trouble and need conservation. And this box about invasive zebra mussels. Some bivalves are incredibly numerous. I think what that guy said in the video is 4 quadrillion or like 1 quadrillion zebra mussels just in this one lake. Anyway, make sure you read these two boxes. All right, I'll see you next time.